This is an evolving case. It's moving and shifting in terms of what the public interest is in this case, and that's what's making it both a challenge to understand what the orders actually are and what the publication bans are in place, but it's also making it what's important to have news outlets like yourself have access to the file and to be able to report on what's going on.
You may already know that with your help, we are challenging the rigid publication bans that not only stifle my journalism on a matter of public interest, but have also been used to throw a concerned BC father in jail for speaking out after his child was prescribed cross-sex hormones that cause sterility without his consent. Well, in today's update on our challenge, I introduce you to our champion lawyer who is helping us fight this uphill battle. Drea Humphrey here with Rebel News, and can you believe that at the same time in Canada, we had both a pastor in prison for preaching without restrictions when his government said no, and a father in jail for informing the public about his inability to delay his child from being medically transitioned because the government said yes. It's a disgrace. I can't believe it myself. Now, you can catch exclusive interviews with both of these men of conviction at rebelnews.com. But for now, you won't believe how tangled the web is of the insane publication bans we are challenging with your help through donations at letusreport.com. Now, remember the father whom I'm legally obligated to call CD. He's in jail for allegedly breaching a publication ban, which forbids him from publicly disclosing things like his own name and his own face. And despite the international interest in this case, I too could wind up behind bars if I were to breach the same bans for reporting on simple facts about this case to you. Now, you'd think with such serious consequences for breaching the bans, the courts would have made things clear and easy to follow for this father and for the press to abide by. And even more importantly, they would have made them reasonable. But they aren't any of those things. I kid you not, CD's counsel, Carrie Linda, informed me just over a week ago that he still hadn't even uncovered all of the bans himself in his hands or the amendments pertaining to CD's case and current confinement. And now that we've hired our own champion lawyer to challenge these bans, I'm beginning to think I understand why. Kyle Bienvenu, our lawyer for this case, doesn't just have a cool last name. He also happens to be a litigation lawyer with publication ban experience, and even he is hitting walls when it comes to obtaining the mountain of orders that restrict this father and the press from keeping you guys fully informed. I asked Kyle to give us some insight on why that's the case.
Litigation in general, this litigation in particular, is complex, and it's made more complex by the fact that it's a family law case. And in family law cases, there are certain rules and structures and institutions in place which are intended to protect the vulnerable people who are involved in those cases, as well as to make private information stay private. In this case, because there's been so many moving parts and because there's been some complexities over the course of time, there's a series of orders which are not easily accessible to the general public, and even to counsel has been made difficult by those sort of systemic barriers that are in place to protect those litigants.
Okay, fine. The whole thing is a mess. It's complicated, I get it. But when a father is denied bail in Canada and detained while awaiting a criminal trial due to more restrictions on his speech, including being forbidden to refer to his own biologically female child as a she, then you better believe Canadian journalists should be free to effectively report on that. We're supposed to have freedom of press, and our citizens are supposed to be able to make informed decisions based on that being a freedom here. And especially since in this case, I feel like every which way you turn, there is a suppression of discussion when we can't talk about it. It's like the goal is to bury the discussion of whether or not we've gone too far as a society when activist school curriculums and activist doctors and activist lawyers can hold our children's hands all the way to irreversible body transitions without both parents' consent. I asked Kyle if he'd ever come across a case where so many publication bans keep getting drafted and amended and even more strict as the time goes on. Here's what he had to say.
I haven't seen it. I can't say this is the only case out there that is the case, but there usually needs to be a material change in circumstances to vary an order that's in place. And so what we're seeing is that this is an evolving case. It's moving and shifting in terms of what the public interest is in this case, and that's what's making it both a challenge to understand what the orders actually are and what the publication bans are in place, but it's also making it what's important to have news outlets like yourself have access to the file and to be able to report on what's going on and to both criticize and to be aware of the court's processes.
Okay, and where are we right now in this challenge?
We are currently still trying to obtain all the information we need to in order to bring an application to have the publication ban varied and ultimately use the information that is currently subject to that publication ban to report on the story fairly and accurately and to engage in what's a fundamental principle of democracy, which is freedom of the press.
So there you are. The battle is just getting started and we are not backing down. If you think this father deserves his own face back and that press should be able to allow you to look him in the eye as he explains his ordeal to you, join us on this fight at letusreport.com. Anything you donate there goes to helping us pay for the legal fees. And as you can see, 200 people have already joined that fight. I want to thank each and every one of you for that because this is important. As you can see from all of these complications, it's not going to be easy and it's not going to be cheap. I'll keep you fully informed at letusreport.com. If you have concerns about how these publication bans are being used and you would like us free to report on what needs to be reported in this case, please go to letusreport.com. We appreciate your support.